Welcome everybody to another lesson. I hope everyone has had a good day today. Today we are going to talk about order of operations with fractions. Up here we have the PEMDAS. If you remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. You'll remember the order of operations is first always parentheses, second was always your exponents. Then we have multiplication and division, which will have the same priority as each other. Then we have addition and subtraction after multiplication and division. Addition and subtraction get the same priority as each other. Well, for today, I can prove to you that multiplication and division have the same priority. Say I give you something as 6 divided by 3 times 2. There are some people out there that teach that you have to do multiplication before division. That is not true. They have the same order. Why is that? Why do they have the same order? If you remember, when you divide by something, that is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So that's 6 divided by 3 is the same as 6 times 1/3 times 2. Now you've converted this all into a multiplication problem, and we can just work from left to right. You could have with the division, but I'm just trying to prove a point here that multiplication and division get the same priority. So 6 times 1/3, 3 will cancel out, leave you with 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. That'll leave you with 2 times 1 over 1 times 2. Well, 1 over 1 we just know is 1. So 2 times 1 is 2. So you'll have 2 times 2, which will then equal 4. Some people would think this answer should be 1. That's not the case. So this right here proves that multiplication and division have the same priority as each other. When we get into basic math too, and we're working with negative numbers, I will also at that time prove that addition and subtraction have the same priority as each other. But for now, we're just going to do some of these problems here. Also, I want to introduce something. Let's say I have a fraction raised to a power. So we've dealt with exponents already and with whole numbers. Now we're dealing with exponents with fractions. All that's going to do is you take the numerator to the second power. 2 to the second power is 4. And then you take the denominator to the second power. 3 to the second power, that's 9. So it's that simple to raise a fraction to a power. So 2/3 to the second power is 4/9. Alright, now that we have that out of the way, let's do with our real first problem here. We have 1/2 times 1/3 times 1/4. Okay, well, we have no parentheses. We go through, see what we have in the order of operations. There's no parentheses, there's no exponents, but we do have multiplication. And it looks like it's only multiplication, so we just work from left to right. So we'll start with 1/2 times 1/3. Well, multiply the numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 3 is 6. You will have 1/6 times 1/4. Now you're reduced down to 2 terms. Again, you'll multiply the numerators. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 times 4 is 24. So the answer to this equation is going to be 1/24. Well, that was simple enough. I'm sure that was easy enough to see there. Alright, now how about this one? 12 divided by 4 divided by 8. So again, let's go through. We have no parentheses, we have no exponents, we don't have multiplication, but we have division. So we can work from left to right. 12 divided by 4, we'll start there. Well, that's 3. So you're left with 3 divided by 8. Well, 3 divided by 8 does not come out to a nice even number. So what we have here is a fraction. So the number you're dividing, that 3, is your numerator. The number you're dividing it by, the 8, that's your denominator. So your answer is going to be 3/8. That was easy enough to see too, I'm sure. Okay, how about we get into one like this? We have 2/3 divided by 4/3 divided by 7/8. Well, again, this is all division. We can work from left to right. We'll start with 2/3 and 4/3. So when we divide by a number, again, that's the same as inverting and multiplying, so that 4/3 will become 3/4. Then we'll just write divided by 7/8 for good measure, just to keep the numbers together. So we see right away in the multiplying part, we can cancel those 3's. Those will each become 1. 2 and 4 factor from each other. 2 is a factor of 4, so if you divide both those by 2, the 2 will become a 1, the 4 will become a 2. So what you're left with is 1 over 1 times 1 over 2 divided by 7/8. Well, 1 over 1 is 1, that's a given. So you have 1 times a half, that's going to be equal to 1/2 divided by 7/8. Well, again, now that we're down to 2 terms, it's important to remember when you divide by something, you multiply by the reciprocal. So that 1/2 divided by 7/8 will be the same as 1/2 times 8/7. Okay. Well, we see here the 8 and 2 will cancel out. So, because 2 is a factor of 8, you divide 2 by 2, you get 1. Divide 8 by 2, you get 4. So you will have 1 over 1 times 4/7. Well, 1 over 1 is 1. Then you have times 4/7. So the answer we're looking for is just going to be 4/7. That would be your final answer, is 4/7. Looks like I need a new eraser and to clean my board. I got 2 more problems. So we have 5/8 divided by 1/4 minus 2/3 times 4/5. Okay, so we got no parentheses, we have no exponents, but we do have multiplication and division. So remember, multiplication and division are the same priority as each other. We'll start with the division first. So you have the 5/8 divided by 1/4. Well, when you divide by something again, you multiply by the reciprocal. So you will have 5/8 times 4 over 1. We'll just have the guiding 1 there. Minus, alright, we got 2/3 times 4/5. Well, we can clearly see that the 4 is a factor of 8, so if you divide 4 by 4, you'll get 1. Divide 8 by 4, you'll get 2. So what you are left with here is 5/2 times 1 over 1. Let me write the 2 a little bit bigger, eh? minus 2/3 times 4/5. Alright, well, 5/2 times 1/1, that's going to equal 5/2. Then you'll be left with minus 2/3 times 4/5. Well, if we remember, now that we're down to 3 terms, we have 5/2 minus 2/3 times 4/5. We would do the multiplication before we do any subtraction. So you will have, we'll leave the 5/2 alone for a minute, minus, alright, now we have 2/3 times 4/5. Nothing cancels from that, unfortunately, so we just got to straight do the multiplication. You'll have 5/2 minus 2 times 4, which is 8, over 3 times 5, that's 15. So you're going to have 5/2 minus 8/15. Now we're down to 2 terms. Now we may deal with subtraction. However, we have a problem here with the subtraction. 2 is not a factor of 15. We need to find the least common denominator by finding the least common multiple of 2 and 15. For the sake of time and working out what the least common multiple is on the side, because I don't think you want to do 15 multiples of 2. You only have to do 2 multiples of 15 to see it, but the least common multiple, which would be the least common denominator, is going to be 30. So, in order to convert the 5/2, in order to convert that 2 to a denominator 30, you have to multiply by 15. So you will have 2 times 15 in your denominator, which means you would have 5 times 15 in your numerator. Now we'll deal with the 8/15. In order to convert 15 to 30, you multiply by 2. Minus, okay, so you have 15 times 2 in your denominator, which means you'll have 8 times 2 in your numerator. Alright, I'm going to write the equals over here. I'm going to bring this back over here. So you're going to have 5 times 15 for the first one, which is 75. 2 times 15 is 30, so you'll have 75/30ths. Minus, alright, we have 8 times 2, which is 16. 15 times 2 is 30. So you will have 75/30ths minus 16/30ths. Now that they have the same denominator, now you may go ahead and subtract. So what is 75 minus 16? Well, that would be 59. So your answer would be 59/30ths. Well, 59 and 30 don't have any common factors. In some classes, you could leave your answer as an improper fraction, and that would work. So I will go ahead and put a box around that. But if your teacher wants it as a mixed number, here's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to take the 59 divided by 30, figure out how many times 30 goes into 59. So 30 goes into 59 one time. 1 times 30 is 30. 59 minus 30 is, well, 29. So you're going to have 1 and 29/30ths as your mixed number. That also equals 1 and 29/30ths for your mixed number. So depending upon your teacher's preference in the class you're taking, either 59/30ths or 1 and 29/30ths, either one of those will be acceptable. Just remember to check with your teacher, see what they prefer. Also, the answers in some of your textbooks may show it either or, so be aware of that. Be able to convert mixed numbers and improper fractions. I got one more problem here. Okay, so let's say we have 1/2 minus, in parentheses, 1/2 squared plus, in parentheses, 1/2 cubed. 1/2 to the third, however you want to say it. Well, parentheses here, you're not adding or subtracting or multiplying or dividing in the parentheses, so we wouldn't focus so much that there's a parentheses, but we would focus that there are exponents. There are, in fact, exponents in this. So what you're going to have to do is solve for the exponents. So you'll have 1/2 minus, now we have 1/2 squared, so you just raise the numerator and denominator both of the second power. 1 to the second power, well, that's 1. 2 to the second power, well, that's going to be 4, so you'll have 1/2 minus 1/4 plus, alright, so 1 to the third power, that's just 1. 2 to the third power, so that's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2, which is 8. So now you are left with 1/2 minus 1/4 plus 1/8. Okay. Again, addition and subtraction have the same priority as each other. There are some that teach you have to do the division before that. That's not true. Addition and subtraction have the exact same priority. So we will go ahead and start with 1/2 minus 1/4. So you have 2 and 4. 2 is a factor of 4, so 4 would be your common denominator. Well, how to get that? If you're going to turn 2 into 4, you got to multiply by 2. So you will have 2 times 2 for the denominator there. And then you'll have 1 times 2 for the numerator. We can leave the 1/4 alone because it's already got a common denominator of 4. The 1/8 we'll just put plus 1/8. We're not even dealing with 1/8 yet. We're just dealing with the first two terms. Alright, so now work through your multiplication. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So you'll have 2/4 minus 1/4 plus 1/8. Okay, well, we know the first two terms. Now we have a common denominator. We can go ahead and subtract them. So 2 minus 1 is 1. You will have then 1/4 plus 1/8. So now you're down to two terms. You have 1/4 plus 1/8, but we need to have a common denominator. Well, good news is 4 is a factor of 8, so that means 8 would be your common denominator. So you'll have, in order to convert 4 into 8, you have to multiply by 2. So you'll have 4 times 2 is your denominator, which means you'll have to do 1 times 2 in your numerator, plus 1/8. We can leave the 1/8 alone because that's already in the common denominator form. So working through the multiplication on the first term, you'll have 1 times 2, well, that's just going to be 2. 4 times 2, well, that's going to be 8. So now you'll have 2/8 plus 1/8. Now that you have 2/8 plus 1/8, they're the same denominator, you can go ahead and add them. So 2 plus 1 is 3. And then the denominator stays the same. You will have 3/8 as your answer. And that's really all there is to it. If you can remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which would be first, the P stands for parentheses. Always deal with your parentheses first. Next to it are your exponents. You deal with those second. And then multiplication and division after your exponents. Multiplication and division have the same priority as each other. Then after multiplication and division, you do addition and subtraction, where addition and subtraction have the same priority as each other. So then you'll be successful if you can remember that. So I'm not going to say you're never going to see fractions again. In fact, we'll still see them quite a bit. But next lesson, I am going to introduce decimals. So get ready for decimals. And I hope everybody has a good night. Take care.